The more things change, the more they stay the same. Yu-Gi-Oh is in an interesting time. As the 25th anniversary celebrations continue, there have been a few interesting things. Though the discussion I'm bringing about today started off as a conspiracy, I actually feel that it ended up kind of becoming true in a way. So everything started off with a reveal of a brand new card, Nightmare Magician. This is a level 7 monster with 2500 attack and 2000 defense. This stat line is important because it's one we often see on ace monsters of anime protagonists. Basically an unspoken tradition for as long as the Yu-Gi-Oh anime continued with this series produced by Studio Bridge. Though as of 2020, the anime has been going in a different direction. I wouldn't say it's bad, I honestly really love Yu-Gi-Oh 7s, but the point is the current anime, now continuing with Go Rush, no longer focuses on Master Duel, instead advertising Rush Duels. As such, there's no new summoning mechanic added to the TCG, therefore no new protagonist, and therefore no new boss monster. The game and the anime have been doing just fine as is, but when Nightmare Magician was revealed, it caused a bit of a stir in the community. Also take into account that this was a monster featuring a brand new type, Illusion, so it felt like the perfect time for a new start. Nightmare Magician is most reminiscent of Dark Magician, with a similar naming scheme as well as the design that was fantasy with vague Egyptian theming. This began the conspiracy that there would be a reboot of a Yu-Gi-Oh anime, taking place in the original Duel Monster setting, but with current summoning mechanics and monster types. This card was going to be Yugi's brand new ace monster, and while things obviously didn't pan out that way, I actually feel like we did kind of get a Yu-Gi-Oh reboot. There's a Nightmare Magician meant to evoke the same feeling as Dark Magician, along with the more recently introduced Nightmare Apprentice, an obvious counterpart to Dark Magician Girl. Both of them are meant to hype up the brand new Illusion type. Another important time we got a pair of monsters like this was with Gaga Magician and Gaga Girl, famously appearing in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal anime, which itself could sort of be a soft reboot, more so in the way that Pokémon Black and White was meant for that franchise. A new era with a lot of changes and several callbacks to the original while still being unique. Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, GX, and 5Ds were their own era, all culminating in the Bonds Beyond Time crossover, while the next 3 series formed a second era. Now we're basically in a third. Of course, this doesn't all just hinge on these two monsters, but in the card game alone, we're seeing a lot of ways a new legacy is being built while honoring the original. Of course, the endless waves of Dark Magician and Blue Eyes White Dragon support are expected, but there's just a bit more. Let's take the Illusion type for example. One of the most prominent decks for the type is Chimera, which features retrains of Gazelle, Berfomet, and the namesake, Chimera. These are all monsters used at some point in the anime by Yami Yugi. Retraining old monsters is nothing new, thankfully Yu-Gi-Oh has been doing that for a while now, but deciding to choose these monsters is one piece of the puzzle, because we also have a new version of Yugi's last manga deck being printed in the TCG. Brand new archetypes like Horus are utilizing Egyptian theming, calling back to the feeling of original duel monsters. And not to mention the current era of Yu-Gi-Oh brought about the return of fusion monsters. The original extra deck summon. They required a fusion spell along with at least 2 materials, and basically everything since then, Synchro, Xyz, Link, are more or less the same thing just without the spell. The concept of combining 2 monsters into a more powerful monster is the basis on which everything else was later built, and even before now there were some fusion decks that were really taking off and doing well enough. I think we can see these as the predecessors, finally tinkering things and developing an understanding of what can really make a good fusion deck in the modern game. I'm saying all this to drive home the point that while we did not get a brand new summoning mechanic in the TCG that would define the game for the next few years, we instead got a decent balance of everything that was already there. But most of all, I would say the current period of Yu-Gi-Oh has been led by fusion monsters. Powerful decks like Branded, Despia, Tearlaments, Thunder Dragon, Invoked, even less popular decks still showing up here and there, not to mention the use of generic fusion monsters. Some examples like Red Eyes Dark Dragoon and Destiny Hero and Phoenix Enforcer don't seem generic. They were played simply because they were enabled by a generic card like Predaplant Verti Anaconda. You can debate whether or not it was a healthy card for the game. I side more on the opinion that it isn't, but I think you've got to admit it was pretty cool to see cards like this being at the forefront. Also, Super Polymerization is an older card, but more recently with monsters like Predaplant Dracostapelia, Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, it's better than ever. So while we didn't exactly get a reboot in the same way that some people had theorized, we did still get brand new card types with a Magician duo, monsters used by Yugi in the anime, Egyptian theming in not only the game but the products, and fusion monsters being top contenders. To me at least, that feels like old school Yu-Gi-Oh in a new school way. So let me know how you've been enjoying Yu-Gi-Oh in a post-2020 world. I know there are definitely complaints here and there, and trust me, I'm finding those battles too, but when it comes to the vibes and aesthetic, I can't complain too much. I'm loving the little things here and there we've been seeing for the 25th anniversary celebrations, and I hope it only goes up from here. Really, everything just ended up lining up perfectly for the return of fusion monsters that we've been seeing, and so I just wanted to talk about it. While conceptualizing this video, my PokeTuber brain got activated for a moment, and I almost feel like writing fanfiction, like putting together a concept of my ideas for a new anime that goes back to Master Duels, where the protagonist uses Nightmare Magician as a race, but I think I would need more time to actually put something together for that. It's something I want to do more on the main channel as well, so we'll see see what summer brings about and what everybody thinks in the comments. Anyway, this is GatorX, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all later.